The shimmering curtain of the portal dissipates behind me, leaving a faint, acrid tang that lingers on my tongue, metallic and strangely sweet. I step onto stone, slick and cold, its surface uneven under my boots. My gaze sweeps across the chamber, trying to pierce the gloom. It's an amphitheater of shadows, carved from some impossibly dark basalt-like rock. Jagged, unadorned monoliths, taller than any building I know, stand sentinel around the central circular dais, their forms barely discernible against the oppressive darkness. A distant, rhythmic thrum vibrates through the floor, a low, unsettling pulse that seems to emanate from the very air itself, not a beat, but a slow, continuous pressure. My breath hitches, catching in my throat. Nobi, usually a calm presence in unfamiliar spaces, suddenly shivers violently, his entire frame tensing rigid. His fur, thick and usually smooth, bristles ferociously along his spine, each individual hair standing on end like tiny electrified needles. A soft, continuous hum, almost a deep purr, but laced with warning, starts deep within his chest. It's a sound I've only heard before in regions of extreme temporal distortion, a biological alarm bell. The instability here feels palpable, a creeping unease that worms its way into my bones, chilling me far more than the cold stone. My initial flicker of detached curiosity about this new dimension twists, curdles into a profound, suffocating dread. Every instinct screams danger, urging me to retreat. I push deeper into the fractured earth, the air growing thick and heavy, tasting like static discharge on my tongue. The low hum, present since we entered, resonates through my bones, a deep chord struck by the surrounding rock. Faint, ethereal luminescence pulses from ancient runes etched into the cavern walls, patterns like forgotten languages whispering of a reality just beyond reach. This place feels fundamentally wrong, a distortion of natural order. Nobi's fur bristles, a low, guttural vibration starting deep in his chest. My primary early warning system is online, signaling trouble. His tail, usually a lazy pendulum, begins to twitch, a rapid, almost frantic rhythm. He pulls gently, steadily, towards a deeper cavern opening, a space where the ambient light seems to bend and absorb itself, creating an unnatural void. My gaze follows, past Nobi's pointed, trembling ears, into the oppressive bloom. A faint, almost imperceptible pulsation emanates from the very heart of that darkness. It's not just a lack of light, it's an active consumption of it, a hungry maw. A chilling sensation creeps up my spine, a familiar cold dread confirming my suspicions. The air shimmers now, not from heat, but from something intangible distorting the very fabric of reality. Nobi lets out a soft, anxious whine, nudging my leg urgently. I feel it too, a profound pressure, like unseen hands trying to flatten and compress the space around us. Then, just above the pulsating void, a strange translucent rectangle wavers into existence. Its text, floating like a broken pane of glass in the air. The air thickens, a subtle pressure against my skin, like submerged deep. Nobi's fur, usually so sleek, rises along his spine, a silent, static electricity. His low thrum vibrates through the ground, a familiar warning. We are close to something, something volatile. My gaze follows his twitching ears toward a cluster of gnarled, skeletal trees. Then I see him, a hunched figure, ancient and brittle as sun-baked wood, emerges from the shadows between the twisted trunks. He clutches a talisman, crude, woven from dried reeds and dark shriveled berries, held tight against his chest. His eyes, wide and bloodshot, fix on me with a raw, visceral terror. He starts to murmur, a dry, raspy sound, like sand shifting in a strong wind. The darkness, it finds us all. It possesses the words. The words twist everything. His voice trembles, a thin wire stretched to breaking. A cold dread grips me, not from his warnings, but from the sudden, impossible clarity in the air just beyond his shoulder. My vision flickers, and then I see it, a shimmering, translucent panel hanging in midair. Words, lines of text, flow across its surface, alien glyphs, yet strangely familiar. It's like looking into a forbidden book, pages turning without hands. The elder's fear sharpens, his murmurs turning to accusations, his hand darting, pointing at me. He sees the effect, not the cause. He sees my awareness as the darkness. The elder's hut pressed in on me, smelling of burnt offerings and suspicion. Nobi's back fur rippled, a low, guttural vibration rising from his chest. He was agitated, not by a physical threat, but by the lingering echoes of something unseen. A volatile spirit, perhaps. I pressed on, my voice carefully modulated, asking about the narrative break chili and its strange effects, using the few phrases I'd learned. The elder, her face a mask of weary defiance, stared at me as if I were a curse made manifest. Her hostility was a cold, sharp blade. She finally relented, her words a jagged torrent of warnings. She pointed a gnarled finger at a flickering oil lamp, then slowly, deliberately, drew an invisible frame in the air, mirroring my head. "It sees what you think," she rasped, her eyes wide with ancient fear. "It writes what you feel." Nobi's tail began a rapid, almost frantic thumping against the floorboards. Sensing the profound disturbance her words invoked, he was reacting to the charcoal residue of pure, raw reality distortion. She described faint, shimmering words that would appear around the plant, the script of your own undoing, she called them. My initial dread calcified into a singular, burning obsession. Floating text, a script. This wasn't just an ingredient. It was a living, breathing paradox. The air around Nobi thickens, pushing against my senses. His low, continuous hum deepens into a resonant thrum, a sound of deep distress. His body goes rigid, tail tucked tight, every strand of fur pressed flat. The central darkness ahead isn't just an absence of light now. It's a living void, vibrating with an unseen, frigid pulse. It shimmers, then ripples, like a hot desert mirage, but cold enough to sting my skin. From its depths, a cluster of forms coalesce. They are pods, fiery red and grotesquely twisted, reminiscent of chilies, slick with an impossible oily sheen. Each surface reflects my face, my hand reaching out, Nobi cowering behind me. But the images warp, stretch, and fold inward on themselves. My reflection shatters into fractured fragments of my surroundings, then resolves into something else. It's like looking through glass that's been broken and reassembled, each shard showing an unsettling angle of what's real. Then, within one pod's deepest curve, the reflections vanish. Translucent lines appear, forming words, floating in midair. A bizarre, alien script of glowing energy. This text, it hovers in front of me, part of the world, yet somehow not. My blood goes cold, replaced by a strange, thrilling awe. This isn't merely a plant, it's a key, a raw, tangible fragment of the world's own blueprint, manifesting. I stare, captivated, into the shifting lines, seeing my own story unfold within its impossible curves. My tongs extend, cold metal poised over the shimmering, narrative break chili. Its vibrant, almost pulsing red deepens, an unnatural glow from within. Nobi's tail lashes low, a rapid shudder through his fur. Warning sign, travel crew. His low hum vibrates deep in my boots, indicating something volatile, something unstable. I close the tongs, a slow, deliberate movement. Before contact, the nearest cluster of pods shudders, not from wind, but from an internal recoil. A jolt, like static electricity, travels up the metal. Then, the air around the chili fractures. Shards of distorted light erupt, not just reflecting the swamp, but twisting it into grotesque, mirrored illusions. I see my own face, stretched and snarling, superimposed over tangled roots. Then, a brief, impossible glimpse of a floating, translucent script, its symbols shifting like smoke. A nearby swamp heron, previously a still silhouette, squawks in pure, unadulterated panic, beating enormous wings. It lunges upwards, its reflection shattering in the illusionary mirrors, leaving only ripples. The chili pods retract further, their surface now a dark, impenetrable sheen. The air thickens, a metallic tang on my tongue, but not ozone, something else. It feels like the world itself just flinched. My gaze fixes on the narrative break chili. Its surface pulses with a low, thrumming light, a slow, organic beat. Nobi shifts, a barely perceptible ripple of scales along his spine. The chili's light intensifies, mimicking the subtle tension in Nobi's form. A strange, mirrored dance. This isn't random. It's too precise. I wean closer, my breath held. The air around the chili feels taut, vibrating with an unseen energy. Nobi's tail gives a soft, single flick, a tiny, almost involuntary tremor. The chili's pulsations suddenly synchronize, accelerating with Nobi's subtle movement, then decelerating as he settles. There's an intelligence here, a response loop. Not aggression, not fear, observation. It's collecting data, just as I am. This realization replaces the cold dread in my gut with a sharp, burning focus. My fingers itch. I extend one, slowly, testing the boundary. Nobi lets out a low, almost imperceptible hum, a sound more felt than heard. And as my fingertip nearly brushes the chili's skin, a shimmering, translucent sheet materializes in the air above it. It's covered in symbols, flowing lines like a script woven from pure light. It hangs, defying gravity, flickering with faint, impossible luminescence. My spoon taps the obsidian-smooth stone, a slow, deliberate rhythm. The air itself hums, vibrating with the chili's volatile energy. Nobi's tail twitches a frenetic pattern, his low growl a constant thrum against the unstable current. I ignore the strange, shimmering distortion at the edge of my vision, focusing entirely on the pulse. Thumb, thumb, thumbs, thumb. My beat aligns. The chili's erratic throb inside the plant begins to steady, responding to the cadence. Nobi's restless shivers subside, replaced by a deep, resonant purr. He pushes his nose gently against my knee, a silent affirmation. The plant's vibrant crimson pods, previously a blur of shimmering lines, now solidify, their surfaces appearing almost defined. I reach with my long, insulated tongs, the metal cool in my grip. A faint, almost imperceptible zing echoes as the tongs close around a single, perfectly ripe pod. It detaches with surprising ease, no resistance, no lingering distortion. Victory tastes like nothing, of course, but the feeling itself is immense. Then, a sudden blinding clarity. The distortion I'd ignored rips open. Before me, suspended in the very air, shimmers a cascade of glowing text, like an ancient, living document. Scene 8, Final Acquisition, Successful Extraction, reads a bolded heading. Key event, using a precise rhythmic drumming, My heart hammers. This isn't just a chili. This is the script. The hearth's embers glow, painting the rough stone walls with a warm, flickering light. I hold the narrative break chili, suspended just above the low flame, my focus absolute. Nobi crouches at my feet, his fur rippling with subtle shivers, a low, guttural hum resonating deep in his chest. He's my barometer, signaling the deep friction radiating from the pod's core. My fingers meticulously work its surface, feeling a persistent, cold thrum against my palm. A steady current of raw energy. The chili's reflective skin begins to pulse, at first a slow, hypnotic rhythm, then accelerating. The air around it visibly bends, creating faint, shimmering distortions like heat haze. The locals, gathered in hushed reverence, shift nervously. I filter their unease, hyper-focused. This isn't just an ingredient. It's a nexus of pure narrative force. With each precise adjustment, a wave of purifying heat washes over the chili, met immediately by an expansive, chilling counterforce. The reflections on its skin are no longer mere light. They coalesce, forming ephemeral, translucent symbols that hang, then dissipate. These are not Veron's chaotic runes. These are a raw lexicon. Nobi's low hum deepens, vibrating through the earth floor. The room's air grows taut, tasting sharply of static. Then, a sudden searing flash from the chili's heart. Reality stutters. For a split second, the world glitches, and I glimpse a faint, ethereal text, floating like a translucent script, just beyond the hearth's edge. It vanishes, leaving the chili, now glowing with contained power. It is refined. It is ready. A profound, chilling revelation settles within me. This ingredient doesn't just flavor a dish, it sculpts existence. My teeth sink into the fourth wall fajita. The taste, it's a symphony of impossibilities, a paradox of warmth and frigid void that sings across my dead palate. Nobi's entire body goes rigid, a low, guttural vibration resonating through my bones, a sound of pure, unadulterated awe. Then the world unravels. The ancient stones of the ritual space don't crumble. They dissolve, like ink bleeding into water, revealing not emptiness, but a translucent fabric of pure information. Above me, around me, the air shimmers, crystallizing into glowing, iridescent lines. Not symbols, not glyphs, but perfect, flowing script, the very language of existence. I feel the friction of it against my skin, 1,000 whispered narratives rubbing raw, a sublime, overwhelming static. This isn't just the recipe's story, it's the story. My own hands, my clothes, Nobi's sleek fur, they begin to fractalize, revealing underlying currents of text, threads of logic woven into our forms. The narrative break chili didn't just break reality, it showed me its bones, its operating code. My curse, my inability to taste, it wasn't a deficit, but a filter, preparing me for this. I see the flow, the edits, the unspoken directives, the infinite permutations. The world is a recipe, and I finally read the ultimate ingredients list, the true culinary architecture of everything.